boys and girls, today we're going to create a collage using different materials to use as texture on our paper. So we're going to use lots of different materials to create our own artwork that has lots of texture on it. So we talked about how something feels. The texture of it is how something feels. Like this feels soft and fluffy. So we're going to use those objects and we're going to use paint and glue to glue them down onto our paper to make a collage of these different textures that we learned about. Hello, boys and girls. We are going to be using our different materials to create texture. So up here I have some paint that I created using food coloring. So this is some neon food coloring, and it's really bright and it works really well as paint if you don't have paint. If you do have paint, you're free to use that if you would like. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your different materials and you are going to see what happens. We talked about texture and what happens, what texture does it create when we use paint. So I'm going to take my grass that has a nice soft texture and I'm going to use that to paint with it. Dip it a little bit more, really get it in there. It's gonna make these nice soft lines on my paper. I like how that's looking. That looks really cool. Maybe I want some purple. Get it in there. Ooh. Just going back and forth nice and gently to create that texture on my paper using the texture of the grass. So I'm gonna use a different material now. I have my cotton balls. I put it in some green paint. Ooh, that creates a nice round texture and it has these little bumpy marks on it. That's really cool. I like how that looks. Okay, I'm going to use my sponge now. And I'm going to fold my sponge in half. I'm going to dip it in the purple. And I'm going to press. Ooh, that's kind of cool. It's creating kind of like a rough texture on my paper. Lots of little dots to show that rough texture. That's kind of cool. All right, now I'm going to actually use some glue because I'm going to glue down some of my sugar. That brown coarse sugar that we had the other day. I'm going to put little dots of glue down. To create that texture from the sugar. You can also use sand because that's really coarse. Or even salt. Salt would be really good too for this. I glue those down. I'm actually going to take a paintbrush. I'm going to dip it in the paint. Ooh, that's cool. I like how that spreads so nicely on the sugar. Wow. Let's put it in some purple and see what happens. Oh, I really like that. That is so pretty. It's that coarse texture. Put some green on it. Wow. That's so fun. All right, I have some bubble wrap that has that bumpy texture. I'm gonna ball that up. I'm gonna put it in my paint and whoa, that's a really cool texture that creates. So I don't want to put too much paint on it because then it won't show that texture. Like this one might have too much, so I'm going to actually dip it in that one to get more of that texture. Wow, that's so cool. It reminds me of a like a firework, kind of like explosion. All right, I'm gonna use my aluminum foil, and I'm also gonna crinkle that up. And I love those little ridges that it creates when I crinkle it. And I'm gonna dip it in my paint. I think I like the bubble wrap texture a little bit more than I like this texture. But we are just experimenting and exploring all the different textures that are created when we use different materials that we find around our home. I'm gonna glue on some buttons. A little bit of glue on there. I like to say just a dot, not a lot. Because these buttons have a nice smooth texture. All right, so here is my collage. A collage is using different materials all on one piece of paper. So I have a collage, lots of different materials on one piece of paper. And it's showing all the different textures that I've created using different materials like a cotton ball, some grass, a rough sponge, some aluminum foil, some bubble wrap, and some coarse sugar. So I hope you enjoyed this, creating your own collage. So we got to feel the different textures, and we got to create different textures on our paper. Have fun, experiment, and explore all the different textures that you can create with just a few materials that you have at home. We'll see you next time.